Why Bitcoin disrupts the hierarchy of money. Flint West, reporting from the macro frontier. Let me start with a simple question that sounds naive until you sit with it long enough to realize it's radioactive. If funding is cheap somewhere, why can't you directly access it? Because that question exposes the lie. The lie isn't about interest rates, it's about access. You were taught to believe money is democratic. Rates go up, rates go down, markets decide, everyone participates. That's not how it works. Money is hierarchical, always has been. Liquidity does not flow peer-to-peer. It flows top-down. From central banks to primary dealers, from primary dealers to global banks, from global banks to institutions, from institutions to maybe eventually you. And every step down the ladder comes with a toll. By the time cheap capital reaches the property owner, the small business, the household, it's not cheap anymore. The spread has already been harvested. Quietly, legally, relentlessly. Take the yen carry trade. For decades, Japan sat at zero. Not because they were clever traders, but because their domestic economy was hollowed out by demographics, debt, and deflation. Japanese capital had nowhere to go at home, so the world pulled from Japan. Not individuals, not homeowners, balance sheets. Global banks borrowed yen at nothing. They didn't knock on Tokyo doors with collateral in hand. They swapped currencies in wholesale foreign exchange markets, yen in, US dollars out. Then they bought treasuries, credit equities, real assets. And somewhere downstream, maybe a property owner got a mortgage that was slightly cheaper than it otherwise would have been. Not because Japan loved him, but because the plumbing leaked a little benefit on the way down. Here's the asymmetry nobody advertises. You don't get access to the cheap money, but you absolutely get hit when it unwinds, when the yen strengthens, when volatility spikes, when leverage snaps back. Asset prices fall, liquidity vanishes, risk gets repriced. Heads, the system wins. Tails, you lose. That's not a glitch, that's the design. And notice something important. You never posted collateral to Japan. Japan didn't ask for your house. Japan didn't ask for your cash flows. Japan's collateral was accumulated after the fact. Foreign bonds, foreign equities, foreign infrastructure, foreign claims on the future. The yen carry trade wasn't a loan. It was a slow-motion asset acquisition strategy disguised as global liquidity. And it only worked because Japan had three things you don't: monetary sovereignty, balance sheet scale, and time measured in decades, not quarters. No margin calls at the sovereign level. No forced liquidations. No retail panic. Now look at Switzerland. Even cheaper funding, right? So why doesn't the world borrow Swiss francs and do the same thing? Because Swiss francs strengthen when things break. Because foreign exchange volatility kills carry trades faster than interest rates ever could. Because Switzerland exports credibility, not liquidity. And credibility is expensive. Yield is just the tax you pay when trust erodes. This is the real lesson. Carry trades aren't about yield. They're about who is willing to let their currency be abused. Japan was. Switzerland isn't. And almost no one wants to be anymore. That's why carry trades today are fragile, tactical, rented, not structural. And that's why the hierarchy is cracking. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. Now here's where Bitcoin enters, not as an asset, but as a structural anomaly. Bitcoin doesn't ask where you sit in the hierarchy. It doesn't care if you're a central bank or a guy with a phone. There is no upstream balance sheet to impress, no foreign exchange swap desk to access, no permission layer to climb. Bitcoin is bearer collateral. If you hold it, you are the final settlement layer. No rehypothecation. No maturity transformation, no hidden leverage upstream that can unwind and crush you downstream. And that changes everything. In the old system, collateral quality rises as you go upstream. Your house is acceptable to a local bank. That bank's assets are acceptable to a larger bank. That bank's balance sheet is acceptable to a central bank. You never touch the source. Bitcoin flips that. It collapses the distance between collateral and liquidity. Atomic settlement means there is no later. Tokenized real-world assets mean collateral no longer has to crawl through intermediaries. Bearer assets mean ownership and control converge. This doesn't optimize the hierarchy. It makes it unnecessary. And that's why Bitcoin scares institutions that otherwise pride themselves on innovation, because this isn't about better products. It's about the end of monetary caste systems, a world where access to capital is no longer a function of who you know, what charter you have, or how close you sit to the issuance spigot, but what you can prove, hold, and settle. So when people ask why Bitcoin, this is the answer they're usually not ready for. Because Bitcoin isn't trying to give you higher yield, it's trying to remove the invisible ladder that made cheap capital inaccessible in the first place. It's not a trade, it's a re-architecture. And once you see the hierarchy, you can't unsee why collapsing it was inevitable. Flint West signing off.